Everybody, welcome back to Big Time Story Time. I'm Miss Dorothy, and I'm here to read you a book. Remember, at Big Time Story Time, we read longer books, not the short little books that we read at Goodnight, Lighthouse before bed. We read books that we can read in the middle of the day, on long car rides, books that take a little more time, books that let us go on a little longer adventure. And that's what today's book is. It's taking us on quite an adventure. Now, this book was given to me by my friends from church, Ella and Charlotte. Ella and Charlotte loved this book, and they thought you would like it too. And when they gave it to me, I remembered, I think my mom used to read this to me when I was a little girl. It's a really old book. It's a folk tale. It's a really old story, and I think you're going to like it. This book is called Caps for Sale. Caps for Sale. See that guy? He's a salesman, and he goes from town to town and tries to sell his hats, or as he calls them, caps. And he tries to sell them right off his head. But on this day, something crazy happens, and it's very funny, and you're gonna like it. So I want you to sit up, listen up, and get ready for this long story because we're going to get into this book together and read Caps for Sale. Are you ready? I hope so, because here we go. Once there was a peddler who sold caps, but he was not like an ordinary peddler carrying his wares on his back. He carried them on top of his head. First he had on his own checked cap, then a bunch of gray caps, then a bunch of brown caps, then a bunch of blue caps, and on the very top, a bunch of red caps. Wow, he's wearing a lot of caps on his head. I don't think I'd be able to walk around like that. He walked up and down the streets, holding himself very straight as not to upset his caps. As he went along, he called, "Caps for sale! Caps! Caps for sale! 50 cents a cap!" One morning he couldn't sell any caps. He walked up the street and he walked down the street, calling, "Caps! Caps for sale! Caps for sale! 50 cents a cap!" But nobody wanted any caps that morning. Nobody wanted even a red cap. He began to feel very hungry, but he had no money for lunch. "I think I'll go for a walk in the country," said he. And he walked out of town, slowly, slowly, so as not to upset his caps. He walked for a long time until he came to a great big tree. "That's a nice place for a rest," thought he, and he sat down very slowly under the tree and leaned back little by little against the tree trunk so as not to disturb the caps on his head. Then he put his hand to feel if they were straight. First his own checked cap, then the gray caps, then the brown caps, then the blue caps, then the red caps on the very top. I bet he has to sit really, really still so they don't fall over. They were all there, so he went to sleep. He slept for a long time. When he woke up, he was refreshed and rested. Oh no, something's missing. But before standing up, he felt with his hand to make sure his caps were in the right place. All he felt was his own checked cap. He had his own cap, but all the others were gone. What could have happened while he was sleeping? He looked to the right of him. No caps. He looked to the left of him. No caps. He looked in back of him. No caps. He looked behind the tree. No caps. Where could they be? Then he looked up into the tree. And what do you think he saw? What could be up in the tree? On every branch sat a monkey, and on every monkey was a gray, or a brown, or a blue, or a red cap. The monkeys had taken the caps, and they were wearing them up in the tree. That is so silly. The peddler looked at the monkeys. The monkeys looked at the peddler. He didn't know what to do. Finally, he spoke to them. You monkeys, you, he said, shaking a finger at them, you give me back my caps. But the monkeys only shook their fingers back at him and said, "Tee-tee-tee-tee-tee-tee-tee." I guess that's what monkeys say. "Tee-tee-tee-tee-tee-tee-tee." This made the peddler angry, so he shook both hands at them and said, You monkeys, you give me back my caps. But the monkeys only shook both their hands back at him and said, "Tee-tee-tee-tee-tee-tee-tee. Tee-tee-tee-tee-tee-tee-tee." I don't know if they understand him, but he really needs his caps back. Now he felt quite angry. He stamped his foot and he said, You monkeys, you better give me back my caps. But the monkeys only stamped their feet back at him and said, "Tee-tee-tee-tee-tee-tee-tee. Tee-tee-tee-tee-tee-tee-tee." I think the monkeys are just copying him. I don't know that they understand what he wants. By this time, the peddler was really very, very angry. He stamped both his feet and shouted, You monkeys, you must give me back my caps. But the monkeys only stamped both their feet back at him and said, "Tee-tee-tee-tee-tee-tee-tee. Tee-tee-tee-tee-tee-tee-tee." Oh, this is so upsetting for the peddler, but I'm sure the monkeys are just copying him. At last he became so angry that he pulled off his own cap, threw it on the ground, and began to walk away. Oh, he's just so frustrated. He's taking off his cap and just going to throw it on the ground. But then each monkey pulled off his cap. They're taking off their caps just like the peddler did. And all the gray caps, and all the brown caps, and all the blue caps, and all the red caps came flying down out of the tree. See, they were copying him. He threw his cap on the ground, so now they're throwing all the caps on the ground. So the peddler picked up his caps and pulled them back on his head. First his own checked cap, then the gray caps, then the brown caps, then the blue caps, then the red caps on the very top. He's real happy now, and he's going to pile them up just like before. And slowly, slowly, he walked back to town, calling, Caps! Caps for sale! 50 cents a cap! Oh my! I told you that was a silly book. I told you silly things happened to this guy on this adventure today. But I couldn't believe it was monkeys! What a crazy thing to happen to a guy that's just out trying to sell his hats. Those monkeys came along, took the caps right off his head, and then when he tried to get them back, the monkeys just kept copying everything he did. That was funny. That was silly, and I enjoyed that book. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you were able to watch the whole thing. I know it was a little long, but that's okay because that meant we even had even more fun reading this book and went on a longer adventure. Well, that's all Miss Dorothy has today for Big Time Story Time. It's time for you to move on to something else now. Maybe you can go out and play. Maybe you can do something with Mom and Dad. Or if you want, you can read another book. Books are always going to be there when you want to read them. And I just want you to learn to love books, grow up learning to read, and reading just for fun. Miss Dorothy sure does love you, and I'm happy you came to see me today. Now you come back for Goodnight, Lighthouse, and you come back again when Miss Dorothy has a longer book for you to read with me. All right? Now you have a great day. I'll see you real soon. Oh, and obey. And obey.